Hello everybody, my name is Daniel Hill and I'm with a client. You might recognise her from before. I've worked with her for quite some time, about 18 months is it now?
About 18 months.
Periodically, and one of the things that we decided to make a little video on is the fact that she is now an ex-Jehovah's Witness. You were a Jehovah's Witness when I first started working with you.
Yes, I was.
Okay, so this is something that you've got quite passionate about now because we've been working on a lot of the limiting beliefs around being a Jehovah's Witness. And it was your choice again to become an ex-Jehovah's Witness, correct?
Yes, it was my choice.
Okay. But there was a lot of overwhelm to do with some of the limiting beliefs about Armageddon, and there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of control within the Jehovah's Witness Church.
Yeah, there's a lot of control. And there's, a lot of fear.
So how's coaching helped you to get over those beliefs?
I think the biggest thing that we've discussed is death and Armageddon. And helping me to understand that the idea of some of the demons and stuff like that are a lot to do with fear and control, especially with the Armageddon. I mean, it's all about control.
Yeah, yeah. There's a Facebook page for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Probably quite a few, isn't there?
There's quite a few, yes.
Okay, all right. And I remember you posted something, you actually tagged me in there once, and you were talking about how there's a lot of trauma and issues that keep people actually in the church as well. It's because there's so much fear of leaving. It was a big decision that you went through, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is a big decision because once you leave the Jehovah's Witness church, you're considered no longer Jehovah's Witness, and they won't even talk to you. You're completely shunned. Mm. So a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, I think, stay in the religion because of that.
Because there's so much fear in leaving.
In leaving, yes.
Okay. So what were some of the things that helped you to find yourself? Because I know that you've said before that coaching has helped you to feel better about yourself. So what was it that enabled you to do that, that gave you the power to say, I don't believe what I'm being told anymore?
Well, one of the things is we worked on the fear of death. And it's not really the fear so much, but just the sadness, I think. We worked on that. And then the Armageddon. And then just the fact that when you were mentoring me with the Enneagram, learning my type, I think had a lot to do with just finding peace within myself. I mean, it was a gradual process, and we had some motivation that, we found out what the religion's all about, and you're told not to look into that. We wouldn't have really had that motivation. I mean, my dad was disfellowship. That's the main thing that really started us off on that, and we refused to shun him. So we would have been in trouble because we'd have still been talking to him. So we just kind of quit going. But there was always, I hadn't went to the religion for several years because every time I went, I cried.
Really? Why
is that? And I realized,
Why was that?
Well, I realize now, I think it was just, I knew that, at the time I thought it was because of the bipolar, but I think that now I know that it had to do with, I just knew deep down that there was something not right.
Okay.
I don't know if something was triggered at the new hall that I went to or what, but there was something. And then after we quit going to the Kingdom Hall, my sister and I weren't contacted by the elders or anybody for over a year and a half, almost 2 years. And during that time, I'd started coming to you, and I'd learned more about myself. I knew that there was a lot of problems that I was having due to the religion, but it took me 6 months before more like 8 or 9 months of seeing you to actually tell you that was part of the problem, because there's this fear that if you tell somebody that and you give the wrong impression about the religion, that if they die, you're blood guilty
Right.
at Armageddon. So, there's just that fear all over about everything. And I was able to get past some of that fear through our EFT and through just the coaching, the Enneagram mentoring.
So how has coaching helped you to be more of who you truly are?
I think the biggest thing is through the Enneagram mentoring. Just finding out that I'm a 5 with a 4 wing, because you lose yourself when you're a Jehovah's Witness. I like magical creatures, unicorns, fairies. You're not supposed to like any of that stuff because it's pagan or whatever, So, I was able to free myself into realizing that that's just the way I am. And I think our mentoring did that a lot. Just realizing how creative I am and appreciating that. And, learning that 5s can be whimsical and be in their own world, and so can 4s. It was kind of nice to know that it was just my personality, and, they can try to get rid of your personality, but it eventually comes through.
Yeah. And you've become more spiritual than religious.
Yes, much more spiritual. One of the things they tell you is when you leave the religion that you're going to, turn to drugs and drinking, and you're going to be out of control, and you're not going to have the love of God anymore, or you're going to be in Satan's control, and that's just not the way it's been at all.
So what has it been for you?
It's actually drawn me closer to the divine, to God, to the divine, whatever. And I just feel more at peace and with things, where one of the biggest things is I could never figure out how a loving God could destroy most of people, because their idea is that anybody that's not a Jehovah's Witness is going to be killed at Armageddon. So how could a loving God destroy everyone except 6 million people? It never made any sense to me. So just realizing that God is loving because of what we've discussed.
Which is what? Help people with that.
I remember you mentioning that the Enneagram helped you to come closer to the divine, just because of the way that we're made, and the way that the Enneagram helps you to become spiritual, and you have to get out of your ego. And I know that we just talked about how if you're able to get out of your ego, you're not going to be wanting to control people.
Right. That's
just an ego thing. And the governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses definitely get off on controlling others. Yeah. Big time. Okay. The whole religion is about control. So I know that there's a lot of people out there that are Jehovah's Witnesses that are having problems right now. I know that suicide is a big deal if you get disfellowshipped or something, because you feel like you've lost everything. Yeah, there's a lot. Once you get over that initial fear and you start doing research, there's a lot of information out there about things. But it's a matter of getting over that fear. And I think EFT helps with that. Yeah, definitely.
With trauma and with even the conditioning of, oh my goodness, the fear of. We did one on the fear of death, didn't we? We did a session, or probably about half a session on the fear of death or something, which was really high. It was like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 or something like that. And it did come down a lot in one session, if not completely disappeared. I can't remember. Can you remember?
It came down a lot. And I remember you had me do research on like near-death experiences and stuff.
Yeah.
And
how did that go? Because I do this with clients. I give them home play. It's not homework, it's home play. And then you can go away and do your own little research. The famous hypnotherapist, Dr. Milton Erickson, who was a psychiatrist in the 1950s, 60s and 70s, he used to do this with his clients, and he would give them work to do. play to do in between sessions. So they would go and research this, you know, they had a limiting belief about something, and then he'd get them to go away and research it. So that's what I gave you, sort of some, if you've got this big fear about death, and then I thought, well, it is a very beautiful one with people who've had near-death experiences. They generally come back and they say they don't have a fear of death anymore. And you did lots of research on it.
Yeah, I remember you said Anita Marjani up, and she was amazing. It was amazing, her experience.
Yes, she had terminal cancer, didn't she? And she survived, and she had a near-death experience, and it's a beautiful story. And yes, I think she's quite amazing and quite unique, and pretty well known now in certain circles. She's probably been seen around the world by maybe 1 million people, maybe more. I know someone who's met her. She's an Enneagram type 2, I would have said. So she stopped being a servaholic and came out of fear, and hugely came out of fear. And I would have said stepped into holy freedom for an Enneagram type 2. And yes, she healed her cancer, and also became very peaceful. And says, there's an interview, she says, fear doesn't protect you, love protects you.
Yeah.
So when
I remember saying that.
When we're not doing fear, we will do love.
I remember she talked about unconditional love.
Yeah.
And that's something you don't really get in that religion. It's very conditional.
Yes.
You say that it's a very loving organization, but as soon as you leave it, they will disown you completely, to the point where they won't even talk to you at a store if they see you.
So what would you say in the last minute? What would you say to people who were in the position where you once were?
Get some help. There's nothing wrong with it, and it can only help you. Coaching can only help you to find your true self and to be happy again and to get out of that fear and that control.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well done.